Kevin, we've got Mike 3883 chiming in with a big picture question going even beyond 2021. So not just necessarily the roster or the team or the two deep that can compete against Ohio State, but looking money, facilities, the whole deal, the coach, the coaching staff, everything included. Who takes the best run at Ohio State long term?
That's hard to tell because you don't know what coaching situations are going to be. I mean, James Franklin at Penn State gets mentioned for this job, that job, and another. There seems to be some turmoil in that athletic department. Sandy Barber, the AD, seems to be under fire a little bit with what kind of happened on the basketball side. You have that school up, US 23 or whatever, that, eventually they're going to move on from Jim Harbaugh. We'll see what happens with them. Coming out of the West, I mean, year in and year out, it seems to be we all kind of gravitate toward Wisconsin. But I think they're just as good as their running back, and their offensive line is going to take them there. Northwestern is kind of popping up a little bit more frequently than it used to under Pat Fitzgerald. We can't forget about 39-time Big Ten Coach of the Year, Kirk Ferentz, and the Iowa Hawkeyes, and what they're going to do. Maybe one day Nebraska will unpack its black shirts from when it moved over from the Big 12 to the Big 10. I've given you a lot of who it could be, but honestly, Ohio State's stiffest competition is coming from its twos. I don't know who's going to be the team that's going to step up. I think in terms of the whole picture, I'm still going to say Penn State. I just don't really think that the West is set up to have a perennial challenger year in and year out. And if we look at the beginning of 2020, Penn State was a pretty horrible team, but it bounced back as the year went on, ended on several wins or whatnot. I think Penn State is the team that is best built to be that competitive team for Ohio State.
Yeah, long term, I think Penn State. I think Indiana has got a short window here with Penix that might last for this coming season, and then it kind of comes down to who do you replace him with, because he was a big part of their success. I just did a big expose on the West Division, and the West is 0-7 all time in the Big Ten championship game since 2014 when they shuffled it. Wisconsin won it the first 2 years in 2011 and 2012, and then Michigan State won it in 2013, beat Ohio State. But since then, it's been that was Leaders and Legends for 3 years, and now it's been East-West for the last 7. And
they're trending better than 59-0, though. It's getting closer. I think the trend's in their direction.
It might be. As I looked at it, I think Iowa is probably the favorite in my mind in that division, although Wisconsin would be right there. I think Northwestern, they won it in 2018. Then they had one of the worst teams in school history in 2019, and then we're back up there and won it again this past year. And even, I guess, beat Auburn in the Citrus Bowl or something, which is just unheard of for them. So I think they cycle back down. They don't have hardly anybody back, so I think they're going to move back down to the middle of the pack. And I think Minnesota is a team, last year for Minnesota and Wisconsin last year, because of COVID, was kind of a year that you could kind of crumple it up and, tear it in half and throw both halves away because it just didn't go their way. Then you're kind of getting down to the bottom. Purdue, the first 2 years under Braum, they went to a bowl game. Last 2 years under Braum, losing records. So, but he's got two quarterbacks, Aiden McConnell and the other guy, some other freaking guy. They're both over 200-yard-a-game passers. And
is Plummer still there?
Plummer, yes.
Another freaking guy.
So he's got, he's got two guys that
Jake
can play
Plummer,
quarterback.
but,
A
yes.
lot of schools don't even have one quarterback. They've kind of got two, although debatable. And then Illinois still got Brandon Peters and Brett Beelzebub going in there. I look for Illinois to kind of cycle up a spot every year. I think Brett Bielema is going to get them back in the top half because it's so wide open. I mean, there's no killer program out there. So, but I look at Iowa. I mean, this could be Iowa's year.
The first team that came to my mind was Northwestern, because at least like every other year they're kind of good, and which is the most consistent of the Big Ten West and the most dangerous. Wisconsin is always Wisconsin, and that's both good and bad. But they're just sometimes Northwestern is capable of something. But eventually it'll be whoever takes over for Michigan, because I can't say whoever, because we've seen that Michigan is capable of hiring the wrong coach several times in a row. But you would think that whoever does that will be able to build that program into what not even what they think it is. We'll be able to do better than Harbaugh, take it to the Lloyd Carr levels, which again is lower than people actually thought it was while they were in the midst of it. And certainly well after the fact, Michigan has always been 9-3, 10-2 at best. This 11-1 season out of nowhere, but now it's 8-4 again, and now it's 9-3, and that's Michigan. And so, is that a threat? I mean, Penn State has done better. Penn State has been able to win division titles, and so there's that. I wonder how much longer Franklin will be there, but he also is he a guy that outstays his welcome and then can't get a better job, so then he just stays there forever, or eventually gets fired. I don't think he's done anything worth firing. There's some, I don't know if stagnancy is the right word with Penn State, but they've certainly been helped by the downfall of other programs. What happens when other programs start to bounce back up? Do they then fall themselves? But yeah, I'm with Steve and Kevin. Like, anything can happen in the West, and so it's hard to pinpoint one team out there that is a threat. And really the same can be said for the East now, other than Ohio State.
I think Penn State is less likely to make a bad hire than Michigan is to make a bad hire, because while both schools have very inflated visions of who they think they are or whatever, I don't hear Penn State saying we need to go get a Penn State man, whereas Michigan is all about going out and getting a Michigan man. And I don't know. I think that if things come together for whatever reason in the Big Ten, for Penn State recruits further to the east. So I think it's going to be easier for Penn State to be able to maintain and improve upon its recruiting. Michigan, I don't know where Michigan recruits right now. Massachusetts, I guess. I don't know. But, they don't – when they were successful, they were recruiting Ohio. Ohio State certainly has a much more impenetrable wall around the state, to the point of where it just really doesn't seem that Michigan attempts to recruit Ohio State. And I can take this back to the downfall of Michigan State being kind of a – 2 out of every 3 year thorn in Ohio State side, going to be a real competitive game. When Michigan State kind of pulled out of recruiting against Ohio State and all those kids went to Kentucky and Illinois pulled out of recruiting there, that's when you saw the middle to bottom of the Big Ten plummet. And that's when the conference kind of went to crap. So, I think that whatever happens with any of these schools, they need to start recruiting Ohio better. I mean, offers don't mean anything. You don't have to sit there and invest $5,000 for every offer you put out there. Just throw offers out there, for God's sake. So I don't know, but I think that Penn State just has some more advantages, even in its own bloated sense of self-entitlement, because it's not the same as Michigan.
Well, and even Penn State is smart enough to go recruit Ohio. They've got Drew Aller, the quarterback, committed. Caden Saunders. So
Clifford's an Ohio guy.
Yep, and so there's that, and I've been saying it for years, just like Kevin, with the Kentucky. You can't let Kentucky continue to come in and get Ohio guys, because it hurts so many of the Big Ten programs. And now you're probably going to see like Boston College become the East Coast version of that with Jeff Hafley there, and they've got Ohio connections, and so now you're stretching the borders of Ohio, and you're just like Purdue seeing guys go, Michigan seeing guys go, Michigan State is, forget about it. And then you got all of these schools that, and Boston College has been able to do it before with the linebacker, what's his name? Luke Kuechly. And so there's the history there. And just, Michigan doesn't even attempt to recruit against Ohio State in Ohio. And maybe that's in one part, it's like, why waste your time? But on the other side, like, you have to put your hat in the ring. You've got to go toe to toe. And if you don't, you'll never be able to go toe to toe on the field.
Yeah, Jeff Hafley, I was looking at Boston College's recruiting just a couple days ago, 37th rated class last year, and that was after 4 consecutive classes before Hafley in the mid 60s to low 70s. So in one recruiting cycle, he raised it like 35 spots. So yeah, you would think he's going to be a factor. He's likable. He's got a ton of energy, and he's going to run. He's already brought in a ton of playmakers that they haven't had at Boston College in forever.
He's going to do great at Michigan next year.
Yeah, maybe he could. If the question was phrased differently, I have the most confidence in Wisconsin being good. If you want good, 9-3 good, I have the most confidence over the 25-year track record of Wisconsin maintaining that, and to a lesser degree, Iowa. But the question's about challenging Ohio State, so I think Penn State is the long-term answer unless Michigan discovers 1997 at some point soon. Yakov, appreciate the contribution there. Yakov commenting on Tony's podcast. More quarterback with Harbs, worse he gets.
That's my
meaning the more he
long-standing
recruits and develops, attempts to develop.
My long-standing Harbaugh quarterback theory: the more time a quarterback spends with Jim Harbaugh, the worse he gets. And I have yet to be disproven on that. So
we are going to take you from here, and we are going to get you to here.
It's like, Mark, when you grab one of the helmets on the top of your shelf and you put it on the bottom shelf, you could be a quarterback whisperer doing that.
We are not going to block for you, nor are we going to put receivers out who are going to run routes for you, and we're not going to run the ball well either. So,
what about defense?
We see a good trajectory like this.
Well, I guess the
our
approach
receivers are not going to lay out for you. That game a couple years ago when Ohio State got that lead, their receivers flat out quit. I mean, flat. I mean, and this was their big name, DPJ, Collins, blah, blah, blah. None of them made a play in the second half. I mean, it was bad.
I think maybe that's the theory or the approach to showing them off for the NFL scouts is you're going to have to take it on all yourself to truly show your skill set.
They're going to be a blank slate because we're not going to teach them anything.
Hey, congratulations to Michigan for putting 9 guys in the NFL draft this year and getting 2 wins out of it.
Off such crappy team. Wow.
9 this NFL draft, 10 last year.
Mm-hmm. And
leads us to the.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to take us right into our NFL draft discussion, but I think that's going to cancel out another shot at Harbaugh in Michigan. I don't want to do that.
No, it's just, I mean, to see what their quarterback's coach go and tweet like Michigan's the only school in the last 3 years to have a first rounder in each draft or something, or I don't even remember exactly what it was, but it's like, yes, you kind of have to tout what you've done in the draft, but then you also have to attach to what you have not been able to do during the regular season with these things. These guys have, look what we've done. We've produced these guys. Well, you've also underachieved. And so you're almost advertising that as well. And then for one of the assistant defensive coaches to quote tweet the stat about Michigan State not having a draft pick for the first time in 80 years, saying you hate to see it the year after Michigan State beats Michigan. It's just, Michigan should just not talk about the NFL draft or Michigan State, or just lay low for a while, stay off of social media for a while until what you do on the field is worth tweeting about.
Ann Arbor, Mothra attack free for 539 days. I mean, it's just as relevant. I mean, say less. Say less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when they send stuff like that out, it's almost like there's an underlying theme or a given that we know that that we're underachieving on the field, but hey, this is the plus side to that.
This could happen for one of the 24 people that signed with us this year, but only one.